Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. Hi, I'm Ralph Lavella.
And I'm Ron Sen. First, a look at Checklist Manifesto. Checklist Manifesto is a book by Boston surgeon Atul Gawande talking about the use of organized systems to improve performance. In his book, Dr. Gawande reviews the role of checklists, simple checklists, in order to avoid making mistakes in many different industries. He looks at the aviation industry, he looks naturally at medicine, his industry, and also he looks at restaurants. But what has that got to do with professional sports or even local sports? Well, I think we've been able to bring the checklist into our own summer league program. Before our last game against an excellent team, I looked at both offensive and defensive checklists for our young players. First on the list was the symmetry between offensive and defensive basketball. Number one was to apply pressure defensively and to withstand pressure offensively by cutting and passing. Number two was to provide help defense, whereas offensively it was to cope with help defense. Both offensive and defensive players have to rebound, and finally, defensively, you have to allow no easy baskets, especially transition basketball, and offensively you want to obtain quality shots. So there's a grand symmetry between what you want to achieve and what you want to prevent, and going over that information in checklist form with the players makes it abundantly clear where the emphasis is and where they need to focus, and our kids really came along this summer.
Yeah, that's what you look at. You know how I am. I tell them we constantly work on drills and how to execute the game both offensively and defensively. And we talk transition run all the time, going from offense to defense, defense to offense. And to me, the number one thing is anticipation. I've probably said, you've probably heard me say it 1,000 times. If you can anticipate, if you're that locked in the game, you can basically do what you have to do as long as you're still doing your drills. Because you have to be able to handle the ball, pass the ball, cut, and really understand the game to run the transition game run.
Right. And as a coach, you want to develop some credibility with the players and bring an emphasis. Now, we've had a lot of success with our groups through the years, and recently I've also been picked up as a national writer for men's basketball Hoop Scoop, which is a leading basketball website. So I write about drills, plays, but especially about the philosophy of basketball and basketball leadership, which I think is really important.
Yeah, and like we both agree that we let our girls play. I mean, you teach them and you let them go out there and play because they have to make mistakes, especially at that age when you're a middle school player. Really in any, even high school, you have to give the players a chance to make mistakes, because if they don't make mistakes, they're not going to get better. But they have to know that. They have to know the coaches are behind them, let them go out there, understand the game, and let them go out, play with confidence, knowing that the coaches want them to take the chances. And when you go through those experiences constantly, Ron, you're going to get better and better.
All right. Speaking of philosophy, once upon a time, the emphasis in sports was particular and local. For example, if we look at Indiana, many of the largest high school gymnasiums in the United States were developed in Indiana, where teams had gymnasiums larger than the population of the entire community. In fact, in the 50s, 9 of the top 10 largest high school gymnasiums were in Indiana. Everyone's familiar with the story from Hoosiers, the 1954 team from Milan, Indiana, which was the first small school to win a state championship. They only had around 160 students in the entire school. Now, subsequently, Indiana, like most other states, has gone to a tiered system based on enrollment. And some people look at that as losing something over time. Certainly, back in our era, they had the basketball tech tournament, which was huge. There were really legendary programs: Lexington, Somerville, Boston English was an outstanding program, Catholic Memorial. Some really great games where even the sectional semifinals and finals were played at Boston Garden. And what's happened is we've evolved toward this universal sports iconic approach where everyone's a fan of professional sports, and I think we lose something because we don't get as much attention on some local sports. like, for example, our great volleyball team. 3 players from the current team, Brooke Bell, Sarah McGowan, and Jen Kane, were on the Northeast Bay State team that won the silver medal recently in the Bay State games. And we're lucky that we still have a great local tradition, but you're always competing against the area and regional professional teams.
Right, and when you get back to high school sports, Ron, I think a key is you have Coach Kelly, who we both feel is one of the best coaches in all the sports, in the high school sports. Does a great job. The kids love playing for him. I mean, volleyball has a great reputation in Melrose. Now everybody wants to play volleyball. But you have Coach Kelly, who teaches at Melrose High School, lives in Stoneham. He's always around the girls. The girls are constantly working on their game. They're constantly talking to him. But, I've been thinking about this. You have other coaches who are from other towns. Some are from far away. All they have is when it's time to have tryouts, there they are, and they're there for that season. They don't know what's going down in the youth sports, what's going on. They don't even know half the players. Some of them don't know any of the players that are playing middle school basketball or whatever sport. Where Coach Kelly knows every single player, and every single player feels like, he's on their side. They're going to work hard to make the team. But I really think that's a problem in some of the sports around where the coach really doesn't care about the city, doesn't care about the youth. What he cares about is getting a strong team in high school. That's what he cares about, nothing else. And if he doesn't have that strong team, I don't know if he's willing to work with those players.
Well, I think
and that's a problem, Ron.
I think it transcends not only athletics, but the school system as a whole. For example, if you heard that somebody were going to be hired to be the school superintendent for Melrose, and they lived in Melrose, you'd fall over dead, because I don't think anyone local even gets fair consideration. I mean, maybe if they go to Dunkin' Donuts, you don't want to, they don't want to be bothered with answering a question about curriculum or facilities, but somebody who's from the community, who's lived here for a long time, has really bought in and invested in the community, do they care less about the community than somebody from New Hampshire or,
Right.
Worcester area?
And what are these people thinking about? When you hire a principal, now, she left after the first year. I mean, she was there for
Oh,
her, well, he
Yeah,
did. I
right.
thought it was a female, was
No,
it male?
he.
All right, he left right after the first year, okay, 1 year. I mean, he's there because of himself. But you get someone from Melrose who's really been involved, he's there for the whole community. He's there for the kids that are going to be coming up, or he or she, and to me, and the same thing in sports.
Well, the argument, I think, is made that no one local is qualified. And I don't know. I'm not sure. Obviously, the new superintendent has a new 100-day plan that's coming out. And we're not here to talk about particularly school politics. But, you want to be able to develop the best programs you have, whether it's basketball or mathematics, so that the kids can be successful and ultimately your community is more successful.
Sometimes you really wonder about the people who are hiring these people. Athletic directors, superintendents, hiring principals, school committee. You just wonder what they're thinking about. Do they really understand, the person that they're hiring? Are they there for the kids? Or are they there for themselves? And that's why I really feel that it's really important to get someone who really cares about the community, cares about the kids that are going to be coming up, whether it's a principal, a superintendent, a coach. And you wonder about, certain people that have those jobs that aren't even from Melrose and don't really care about the younger kids coming up.
Well, there's a lot of issues. Obviously, you want people who have commitment to the area, to the program, to the students and the families, as well as you want a certain amount of passion. People really have to care about what they do. Now, some people think from out of town that regarding Melrose basketball that we're over the top, that we're crazy. And last year our team played 57 games, and that didn't include the summer schedule. But we love basketball and we love the kids, and we want them to have a great experience.
Right, and they wouldn't be playing those games if they didn't want to play or the parents didn't want to play.
Absolutely.
I mean, you ask them and they want to do it. And, with our kids who played 57 games, I mean, they just loved it. I mean, they loved that last tournament as much as the first tournament we played.
Well, as a teacher, you have the dream job. You have students who want to be in your class, who'll do everything they can to improve and succeed, and are great kids.
Well, Melrose definitely has a perfect situation with Shelley, Coach Shelley. You know, Coach Morris teaches at the high school also. He's around those kids. Those kids know what they have to do. I mean, they're not going to fool around with him as the coach. You know, and the kids work extremely hard, the football players. I mean, I'm truly expecting, Ron, after doing all those games last year, I'm expecting Melrose to have a powerhouse this year. If what a lot of people told me is right, if that offensive line, which is going to be young, if they're as strong as people are telling me they are, with those specialized players they have in that team could really be a powerhouse this year. Again, injuries aside, you know, you worry about the injuries. Last year, Anderson was injured, and a couple of other players, younger players, were injured, and that really hurt the team.
Well, they're going to need, as always, players to replace graduating players. Obviously, a player like Spencer Walsh was a terrific running back, but also, right, and the Hansons, and Walsh was also, I think he was better defensively even than he was offensively. He was outstanding at the linebacker position.
Did he play in one of those All-Star games this summer?
I don't know.
I didn't see him in one of the, I can't believe that he didn't play. To me, he was one of the top 2 or 3 players in the Middlesex League. But I didn't see his name. Maybe he played on the, I noticed 2 All-Star games.
Well, at the other end of the spectrum, we have shame on State U. The NCAA came down with suspensions and heavy punishments against Penn State this week. The night before, the statue of Joe Paterno was removed in kind of under the radar fashion, packed up in a blue tarp and hauled away, probably never to be seen again. And then a series of punishments ranging from a $60 million fine to be used for prevention of child abuse, not by Penn State, but by some other institution, as well as loss of scholarships, loss of ability to participate in bowls, a really heavy punishment.
Yeah, that fine, it really isn't a fine. It's, you know, it's really donations to whatever. And again, $60 million. They're losing 20 scholarships a year, plus 10 right off the bat. You know, and Paterno's losing 112 victories. So, I mean, I look at it where I work for the court system. I look at it from a different angle. I look at it that Sandusky's in the prison for the rest of his life. You know, hopefully he suffers there. You know, hopefully he doesn't get killed right away. You know, and he just suffers because he's the worst of the worst. They should have capital punishment for something like that. And then Paterno, he's dead. They would have been prosecuting him. They're going to be prosecuting the athletic director. They're going to be prosecuting the president, a couple of other people on the board. That's the word. Okay, so you look at it from that end. You know, they're going to get jail time. You know they're going to get jail time because they knew about it. Paterno came out and said, listen, I went to my athletic director when I found out. I'm supposed to go to my boss. I went to him. The police were involved early on. They felt there wasn't enough information. One of the prosecutors was killed or died during their investigation. I don't know what happened there. But I'm waiting for a book to come out, Ron, because I don't know enough about it. You know Paterno covered up. You know that the athletic director covered up. You know the president covered up. They should all be prosecuted. Paterno's dead. So I'm looking at it from that view. If they're going to hit them, and then they're going to hit them with a civil suit, they'll probably be about $100 million by the time they're done. So if they're getting hit, if they're getting hit from that angle, you know, why is the NCAA even involved in this? You know, I can see them taking his victories away, his victories, not the team's.
Right.
Take him off every record, Paterno. He should be off every record. But I don't agree with taking the victories away because the kids that got those victories, they weren't involved in this. So, I mean, why are they doing that? But take him off all the records. They took a statue down. And see what happens with the prosecution of these people first. I mean, they're hitting these kids. I mean, everybody says, well, you're crazy. They should go after the school, too. Well, they're going after the people that were involved, Ron, and they're going to be prosecuted.
Well, there's no doubt that the NCAA wanted to make an example of Penn State. And we don't know how many other programs there are who have anything even in the ballpark similar. We certainly know that there's a lot of problems with football players and their interactions with other students on campus, their relationships with women, and sometimes with other people as far as hazing, etc. And how this all plays out is going to occur over years.
But you know Sandusky had something big on Paterno. You know he had something. Recruiting violations, even more than that. I mean, for Paterno to keep his mouth shut after he originally going to the athletic director, and then you hear about these emails that he sent out telling him not to go to the police afterwards. I mean, you know he had to have something on him. I mean, you're not just going to worry about your program there. You're going to definitely go after him.
Okay, so now let's say you're Bill O'Brien. You've got this remnant of an outlaw administrative program. It's not that the players were doing anything. How do you rebuild the program? What do you tell your current players to keep them there?
He's in the, believe it or not, he's in the perfect situation right now.
Well, it's the low expectation set, that's for sure.
It's perfect for him. I mean, he's there. He's the savior, right? He's got a 9-year contract now. If he stayed after all this, what happened yesterday, all these penalties, if he stayed, he was going to get, I believe, 4 more years on top of the 5. But right now, I hear that he's guaranteed 9 years with Penn State for staying after these penalties. So, you know, sympathy. He's got everybody behind him now, rooting for him and his players that are staying there. They're going to be on TV. They're not going to be playing in bowl games, but they're going to be on TV. You know, I mean, what pressure does he have now? He's trying to build a program back to respectability. I mean, it's just, to me, it's a great situation. He would have, you know, you hate to say it, he wouldn't, you know, he was with the Patriots, so eventually he would have gotten a job somewhere. But
well, you're let's say, fill in the blank, Illinois coach. You're both looking for the same stud quarterback, and you say, we run a clean program. You're going to be able to go to the Rose Bowl if you have success. You know, why would you want to go to Penn State? Look, they don't have enough scholarship players. They're not going to have enough players to block for you. You're not going to have enough top receivers. Why wouldn't you come to us?
Well, you know what's happening, too. There's like 30 players that said they're staying, and 18 of them are starters from last year, or we're going to be starters this year. But I didn't notice. You know, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, they can call these players. They can just call them at home and say, listen, we guarantee you're going to be the starting middle linebacker on my team. All you have to do is say goodbye. We'll, you know, you're playing fair to Alabama, and you can work out with the players, and you're going to be that starting middle linebacker. Now, you're playing for Penn State. You got close friends. What are you going to decide to do there? Penn, you know, you go to Alabama, you may be playing the national title game. So I didn't know they can do that. They can actually call these players.
Right. There's no restrictions whatsoever, and the players can transfer and not have to sit out.
Right.
Well, it should be very interesting going forward. Now, Penn State was no longer at the top of the Big Ten. They had slid down to the middle.
Paterno should have been gone 5 years ago anyway, at least.
Well,
I mean, I was a big fan of his, but then when he kept sticking around, before I knew all this, he's sticking around, he's standing. He didn't even know what was going on in games, and he was there.
Do you think they're going to still have the same uniforms when they come back, or are they going to have something different?
They'll probably have the same, because there's no names on the back, number one. You know, I don't even, so I think they will, the blue and white.
Well, switching gears to professional football, today the Patriots opened up training camp in Foxborough, and I could not believe this poll. There was a poll on ESPN where they asked fans what percentage of them thought the Patriots would have an undefeated regular season. And what would be an unreasonable, crazy number in your mind?
10%.
All right. 39% of fans said the Patriots would go undefeated. I think the chance of that happening is about as much as you and I coaching the Patriots this year.
I'll tell you though, Ron, I think they could have a better team than that team that went undefeated during the regular season.
Well, their defense should be better. That's.
Well, you don't know about, is it Jones? You don't know how he's going to be. Hightower, I think, is going to be, right off the bat, he's going to be a stud. You know, playing beside Mayo, and then Ninkovich and Fletcher, and, you know, I think Cunningham, they don't know. They said if Cunningham doesn't improve at all, he's going to be cut. That's what the word is.
Well, they
Waters is going to be.
They just cut Joseph Adai yesterday.
Well, he couldn't pass. He quit the test.
Well, obviously, the players have a very rigorous. They call it. It's not really a physical. It's a fitness test. You have to run like 1,600-yard dashes under a certain amount of time consecutively. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's a ton. And you know the linemen have to do it in a certain time. The ends a certain time, the quarterbacks. But how much time they give Brady?
But you know that you have to do it. You know, it's not like, oh gosh, I didn't know that was a fitness test.
But the thing with Waters, now Waters is going to be a key. I think he's just, like we said, we were talking the other day, Waters is just going to wait a while. He's a veteran. Why come into camp now? But I think the key to the whole team is Vollmer. If Vollmer's back is healthy, with Solder at left tackle and Vollmer at right tackle, you got Mankins is still coming back from that operation.
Or I remember a couple of years ago, a Patriots lineman was asked about his impressions of training camp, and he said, well, just imagine you gather 22 of your closest friends, you go down to your park and beat heck out of each other every day, twice a day. And now, of course, the NFL's cut back on the amount of contact, the number of double sessions, etc., but it's still a physical sport, and people have to get accustomed to that beating.
Who's the one player that was hurt last year that you hope is healthy this year?
Hurt last year, hope he's healthy this year.
Running back. I'm just hoping.
Oh, I know. You really like Perrine. You know, I'm hoping that McCourty was really more hurt than.
Well, his shoulder.
Right.
I'm hoping that too.
So that because if he's healthy and can actually cover somebody, that's going to be critical. 63% of the plays now are used sub-defenses, so you're going to have 5, 6 defensive backs. Everybody says, why'd they draft Tavon Wilson in the second round? It's because he's going to be in those nickel and dime packages probably.
They get a lot of good backs, defensive backs now. If Darling stays healthy, he'll be a right cornerback. You have McCourty a left cornerback. They want to move Arrington into the slot, you know, and then they have who's that guy to get in the 5th round from Nebraska? He's the guy who's been a problem.
Alfonso Denard.
Yeah, he's been a problem.
He's got his court case postponed till December.
But they say he's unbelievably talented. So they have a lot of talent back there.
Well, the issue historically,
I hope is healthy too.
I think Belichick has said the issue is always both ability and durability. Now, Chung had missed a lot of time over the course of time. Now, this is his contract year, so he's going to be playing, hoping at best to be franchised. And they still have to decide what to do with Welker after this season. But that's something that should take care of itself.
But you know, if they stay reasonably healthy, they're going to have a heck of a year. Well, I mean, this team is loaded.
Well, there's no reason to be pessimistic, that's for sure. But how many teams have gone back to the Super Bowl after they've lost the Super Bowl? Not too many.
Yeah, but how many teams have gotten stronger after the Super Bowl, after they lost in the Super Bowl? And they've got, usually teams lose guys because of the money situation, the contracts expired. They don't have enough money to pay them because they're paying so many top players because they went to the Super Bowl, so you know that they're paying big-time money anyway. So now you lose players. Now, what happened with the Patriots, they didn't lose players. They added to the team big time in all the areas they needed to add. At end, Vollmer was out last year at the end of the year. To me, he's a stud at right tackle.
Well, remember, they had to take Solder out at halftime because he was struggling, and ultimately you still have to cope with the Jason Pierre-Pauls of the world. But,
the one thing I'm really confident about, they played great. I thought they played great, the offensive line, against the Giants. That didn't cause them the game. Don't forget, another thing too, Ron, we were talking, and you said the defense played their best game but not the offense. At one time, Brady completed, I believe, 14 passes in a row in those 2 long drives at the end of the first half, the beginning of the second half. Then they decided to go conservative, O'Brien, the next time they got the ball, instead of taking it to the Giants. And then Welker dropping that pass at the end of the game. I mean, they were moving the ball against them. In that last drive, they were moving the ball. They got a couple of first downs.
Well, there's no reason not to expect the Patriots to be strong and be back, and we'll be right back after this message.
Athlete Training Tips by Athletic Evolution, giving you the edge.
Scott Duggan back again at Athletic Evolution. I'm here to go through Athletes Tips of the Week. We're going to start off here with our TRX. We use the TRX for a variety of different exercises and classes. But in our athletic enhancement groups, we primarily use it for our horizontal row or our horizontal pull. To get into this, we're going to start off by digging our heels in. Our toes are going to be up. I always tell the athletes to start with their hand position, thumbs facing each other, and they're going to finish with thumbs facing up. So we're going to rotate just like a perfect push-up on the way up. Our body wants to stay in a straight line, so we want to have a straight line from our heel all the way to our head back in neutral spine. We're going to pull our shoulders back, keep our shoulders retracted. As we pull up, our thumbs rotate from facing each other to up, feel that nice pinch in the back, I usually have the athletes hold for a second to make sure they're all the way through. What we don't want to see here is we don't want to see the athlete break that straight line, so they'll come up chest first and then hips, or they'll lean all the way back, get their hips up, and then pull their chest up. So once again, neutral spine, head back, pull the shoulders back, toes up, straight line from my heel to my head, pull up, pinch the shoulder blades in the back, thumbs finish facing up, and then back facing each other. In order to make this exercise more harder, what we do, that it's a huge benefit as opposed to using weights and a dumbbell row, is we'll use our feet. So the farther I move my feet down, the harder the exercise is. The closer I move my feet up, the easier the exercise is. One other thing we can do is we'll also use a step, a bench, or anything like that to elevate the athlete's feet, and that's gonna make it even more difficult than moving it all the way down. Once they get to a point where that becomes easy, what we'll do is we'll take weights, put it on the athlete's chest, and load them up. Now we're gonna take you through a basketball-specific sports drill. We use this for our basketball players to try to help them drive off a defender and create an open shot or create open space for them. What we have here is our Nike Spark band. All it is a resistant band, has a couple straps around their ankles, and we're using 5 cones. I tell the athlete to use the cones as targets, not necessarily get their foot all the way to the cone, but just use it as a guideline. We can either have the athlete go in a specific order and get used to driving off a defender in all different planes, whether it's straight ahead linear, off to the side laterally, or at a 45-degree angle, or we can do it in reaction based. So what I'll do is I'll throw up either different color cones, I'll yell out the color, and then they'll have to react to whatever color I put out. For the purpose of this drill, I'll just go in order all the way through each cone. So what we're gonna do is get the athlete used to driving off, coming back, creating some space, and then get into his shot. We don't have a ball with us today, so all we're doing is asking the athlete to simulate their shot. What we're doing with the Spark band is we're adding some resistance to their pivot step, so that way they're building up more explosiveness off their first step drive. Hopefully they're able to draw the defender off more, create more space for them. So what it's gonna look like is this. Pretty simple. We'll have them go through whether it's 1, 2, or 3 sets. And like I said, we can make this either a straightforward drill, just get them used to their explosiveness, or we can add a reaction piece by adding different color cones, shouting out the color, and have the athlete react to my command. When we come back, we're gonna bring it over to Will. Will's gonna take us through a clean complex. Will is one of our CrossFit instructors at AE CrossFit here, which is also in the Athletic Evolution facility, and Will's gonna show us how he teaches cleans in his CrossFit class.
I'm Will Gamby with AE CrossFit. Today we're gonna be going over the progressions of the power clean and how we like to attack teaching the power clean here at Athletic Evolution CrossFit. So the first thing we're gonna go over is progressions. We like to do that with PVC pipes. PVC pipe is just a lightweight barbell, but it's gonna act as a barbell. So the first thing we're really gonna focus on is getting that good setup position. So in my setup, I really want the bar to be as close to my shins, if not touching my shins. It really should be touching your shins. We're really focusing on, if you notice, I'm keeping my back and my lumbar active, and I'm really over-exaggerating the weight that I have on my heels. If you can see, I can wiggle my toes. The first of the progressions is I'm trying to keep the angle between my shoulders and hips the same before I pass my knee. So I'm coming up slowly, and then I'm just standing. That's the first one of our progressions. So we're gonna really work through these progressions because the clean's a complicated movement. We're really trying to get you comfortable with getting that first stage of the clean down. From there, we're just gonna take it from the hang position. In the hang position, which is mid-thigh, we're gonna do a quick dip and extend. We're gonna really achieve that full extension. We're gonna shrug and follow with the high pull. So our main focus here is really keeping those arms straight. We don't want to pull early. We really want to hit full extension, shrug, and then high pull. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to physically push the bar down, starting my dip, and then I'm going to explode off my heels, shrug, and high pull. So in full speed, it looks something like this. Really focusing on exploding straight up to keep the bar on a nice straight line path. So next, I like to go over just from the high pull position, we're gonna just think fast elbows. So right now my elbows are high and to the outside. I'm coming through and really just snapping those elbows through quickly. And that's gonna help us catch the lift and really make sure that we complete that lift. So we're gonna go through the progressions. We have first, we're down, really weights back on my heels, my shoulders are engaged, my lumbar is active, coming up past the knees, really exploding, trying to get that hip extension before I shrug, before I high pull. With the barbell, I'm gonna have the bar going right across the laces of my shoes. I'm coming down, my hands are outside of my hips. I'm really sinking the butt down. I'm using this weight as an anchor to help me stay on my heels. I really want to engage the bar before I start the lift. If you can hear the click of the weights before I really get going. From here, I really just want to explode directly through the ceiling, straight up. Give that hip extension. And we're going to come into the shrug, the high pull, and really throw those elbows through fast. That's how we go about teaching the power clean here at AE CrossFit.
Athletic Evolution staff of energetic, motivated, and certified professional strength coaches will help you get to the level you aspire to achieve. At Athletic Evolution, it starts with a purpose and ends with your success. Visit our website or drop into our training facility at 78B Olympia Avenue, Woburn, Mass. Athletic Evolution, giving you the edge.
So, how bad are the Red Sox? You want to ask me about how bad are the Red Sox? You know what I say? Blow it up, please. I know it sounds kind of harsh because everybody wants to say, oh no, they can still win, but look, they're just getting healthy. All right, you want to talk about injuries? Well, let's talk about some of the healthy people, huh? Let's talk about what the excuse would be for Beckett and Lester. Let's start out with that. We can call it Bester, because they've been anything but best. All seriousness aside, just think about this for a second. If you would, can you imagine that Beckett and Lester have only won a combined 1/3 of the games in which they started? How much money are we paying them? Really, how much money are we paying them? I mean, they're 10.5 games out of first place. And I can just imagine that if the Red Sox had Beckett and Lester winning half the games they started, it would be a disgrace for two aces to win that little amount. But wouldn't they be close to first place right now? And you want to talk injuries, geez. I mean, well, yeah, Kyle Crawford, he didn't even start the season. Ellsbury didn't even start the season. There's your first and second batter and your center fielder and left fielder. Yeah, I'm going to say that's probably going to put a little dent. And Adrian Gonzalez hasn't hit his weight. I mean, since the home run derby last year, I mean, how many home runs has he hit? Not that he's only measured by that, but, you know, they had him playing right field to try and get people motivated, try and get people into the lineup. Youkilis was terrible when he started this year. And obviously it's come out now that he was the guy that, you know, kind of planted that seed about where the chicken and beer came from last year. So what did we do? We traded him for a bucket of practice balls, which is what everybody wanted. And now he's lighting it up in Chicago, which is what will happen when eventually they smarten up and ship Beckett out, because guess what will happen? He'll go somewhere and he'll become an ace. All I get to say to you, Josh Beckett, is you should have a little more self-respect about your position as the #1 pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. Because I can tell you, even though we ran Clemens out of here and nobody cared about him and we still boo him and all of the other stuff, you can't say this about Clemens, that he didn't care. He never went out on that mound and pretended like, what do I care? Next question. He wanted to be the ace of the staff. He wanted to be the stopper. If we had a 3-game losing streak, you know Clemens would turn around and give his all, come out with his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shoelaces and his eyes blackened. But enough. This isn't about Roger Clemens. Let's talk about the people that said Tito lost control of the team. Well, that's good. Isn't it nice that the players thought that Tito lost control? So what happened? You brought in a drill sergeant, Bobby Valentine, and now you guys complained about him. Early in the year, he had a run-in with Pedroia, another of the injured. It's not his fault. I love the guy. He got injured twice. Guy tries as hard as he can. You give me 10 Pedroias and this team is not in last place. But I digress. He had a little scrap with Valentine. You know, you heard about, we don't do things around here that way. Well, how do we do them? Do we win? I mean, everybody knows that Valentine's wings have been clipped. Not only wasn't he the first choice of many to come in here, but there's a line going up the back stairs. Bobby says something to somebody, and somebody runs up the back to complain to somebody upstairs. Who's running the team? Is it Lucchino? Who is it? Who is it? Do you know who it is, puppy? Do you know? Do you have any idea? Because I got to tell you, I'm very disgusted by this team right now. I got to tell you. I don't even want to watch them. That's why I'm sitting here with a bass around my neck. I'm going to do anything I can not to watch the Red Sox. Look at me. I'm playing Wii. Come on. I'm disgusted. You can see that I'm disgusted. You don't even want to be around me. What is it? Do I smell? Have I not showered lately? But anyway, back to the whole thing. I'm disgusted. Who the hell knew that Felix Doubront was going to carry the staff this year? At the time, everybody was thinking, oh, wow, Doubront, you know, maybe he can stick. Maybe we can get him in there. He could be our 5th starter. And then there's Daisuke. I'm not going to go there. Buchholz was another one. Started out like crap, got injured. Thankfully, he's turning it around, okay? Thankfully, we have Doubront, we have Buchholz, and we have some guys out there that, you know what, Crawford, Ellsbury both came back, and they're both trying hard. We got Cody Ross in right field. They shipped Youkilis out. Will Middlebrooks, yeah, he was another of the walking wounded, hamstring. They got him at third base. Things are looking better. And they're in last place. Okay? So I don't want to hear this anymore, personally, that we should just all be patient. Well, what are we going to be patient for? Look at where their payroll is. Let's get rid of it. Let's start shipping some guys out. They got guys down in Pawtucket. Let's not wait for the September call-up. Let's do the right now call-up. You know what? If you got a bucket of practice balls for Youkilis, maybe you can get a practice bat or a fungo bat for Beckett. Just get him out of here. All right? He don't want to be here. He doesn't want to try. Maybe Lester, I don't know. Maybe we can bring somebody in to work with them. I don't know. You know, maybe we can pay somebody under the table to help him get over this whole thing. Because he's not pitching like an ace. He's pitching like a 2 of clubs, okay? All I know is I'm disgusted. I'm not watching this team for a while. That's all I know is the Patriots camp starts pretty soon. If you feel like me, I don't know, you're probably playing Wii. And to that, all I can say is, see you later, bye.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court. With a year-round training philosophy, VBG can assist you in reaching your full potential as a player with conditioning, basketball fundamentals, position-specific training, and skills and drills taught by the best coaches in New England. For more information, visit our website at visionarybasketball.com or drop into our new athletic performance center located at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
Welcome back. we want to say a little bit more about the National Football League as a whole, and I was musing about what might be some of the big stories this season, and maybe the biggest will be from New York, New York, Tim Tebow and Mark Sanchez. Who's going to be the quarterback? Are they going to share duties? Is it going to be the Wildcat? What are they going to do there?
Well, I think it'll be Sanchez right off the bat. I mean, they're not going to be crazy, you know. And they'll start off with Sanchez. If they go into a slump and Sanchez doesn't play well, which I think he will play well with Tebow behind him, and that's the way they'll go. Tebow, I wouldn't think they bring Tebow in on 3rd and 1s all the time, because now with, you know, Sanchez is your #1 quarterback. So I think Tebow will just sit there until, you know, if they go into a slump and he's not playing well, they'll bring Tebow in, but not to start.
What happens in the first half of the first game, and Sanchez throws 2 picks and, you know, has a fumble, and then all of a sudden the fans are starting to scream for Tebow.
Well, you know, another thing too is how much is Tebow going to improve? I mean, I've always liked him, but how much is he going to improve? When I saw him play against the Patriots, I says, oh God. I mean, he couldn't throw a pass 5 feet to the receiver. Every pass was either high or low. Most of them low.
Well, and he had a lot of highlights in last season, and he made some good throws. The issue is his consistency and accuracy isn't really at the level of an NFL quarterback right now.
Yeah, and if you start using him in certain situations, it's not going to be good for Sanchez. He's not going to develop. I mean, he's been in the league 4 years, right?
I think that's right.
You know, I mean, he's not. They've said in the past you need 4 or 5 years to really develop some players. I mean, I think he's going backwards a little myself.
Well, when the saying is, if you have 2 #1 quarterbacks, then you don't have any.
No, and then, you know, Sanchez is not going to be happy if they start using Tebow in certain situations.
Now, I think the second story may be Peyton Manning's return, especially with Denver. Denver was a terrific defensive team, but they really, you know, kind of scraped by offensively a lot of times because of the defensive forcing turnovers. And, you know, time will tell as to how healthy Manning is.
They're going to win it out there if he's healthy. They'll win the West. I mean, they won't win it. I mean, teams like Patriots, to me, will kill them when they play them. They'll be, you know, Baltimore will be too tough for them, and maybe Pittsburgh too. You know, so you have those teams there. But I think they'll be next to those teams. They'll be in the next level. Next
up will be, can the offenses be stopped in this wide open NFL with spread formations galore and top flight quarterbacks all around the league? What can defenses do to try to get back in the game?
You know, the tough thing is when you go up against teams like New Orleans, you know, and Green Bay, it's tough to stop those teams because the quarterbacks are so smart, you know, and then Rodgers is good, Breeze. I mean, to me, like I said, Brady's smarter than both of them. Brady just hasn't had the receivers that they've had. I mean, both teams have 3 real good receivers who can go out, go down 25 yards, have those cornerbacks pinch off them. It gives them more room to pass the ball. That's why these quarterbacks look great. Where Brady has less of an area to throw it into because he doesn't have those receivers. Now he has Lloyd. Maybe Lloyd can spread that defense a little more.
And we noticed that Gronkowski's not on the physically unable to perform list, so expectation is he'll be practicing full speed.
Is he going to have a reality show? Did you read that? Him and his family?
Oh, I don't know.
He's crazy if he does.
Yeah, he doesn't need that.
No, he doesn't.
Well, let's talk about the Celtics a little bit. Celtics had a very productive offseason. If anything, they may be stronger than last year.
I think they could be stronger than Miami right now. They could be the best team. They could be. It's really close, and they will come together because of Garnett and Pierce. The team will come together. Hopefully Rondo grew in that Miami series. I saw something different in him. I saw a lot more confidence, and I saw him play the game the way he should play it. He really led the team. I think the team will be stronger with Allen going and Terry coming and Lee coming. They'll be that much stronger because both of those players are better defensively than Allen. They don't need picks to get open, so the Celtics will work more of an wide open offense, spread offense where players can attack the basket, shoot off the dribble, where Allen couldn't shoot off the dribble.
Right. What Ralph is saying is that Allen needs other people to get him the ball. He cannot create for himself at this point in his career, and he doesn't really take the ball to the hoop very strong. Now, he had injuries. Maybe that slowed him down to a crawl, but and we're not. I mean, the guy's
still a great
he's
shooter.
a Hall of Fame player. He's going to help Miami to a degree, but I think you're going to see a different Celtics team this season. I hope Sullinger's in the rotation. I think he's going to add something. And they made the sign and trade deal for Courtney Lee, who's a very solid off guard from Houston.
And they got Collins too,
Right.
one of the last moves, and Dooling they just signed. So they're pretty much set with their team. Collins is a 7-footer, not a great player, but adequate. Garnett needs a rest. You can bring Collins in.
Collins is pretty decent defensively. He's not much of
better
an
than
offensive
Hollins,
player.
I think. Better than Hollins and Steamsman. Knows the
Right.
game better than both of them. You know, smart type player.
He's been around 10 or 11 years, I think.
And playing with Rondo, you know, Pierce and those type players, you know, you perform better with that type of a team. And so, you know, he'll give them the minutes and not hurt them. You know, he's not going to give them, you know, like say they're behind. He's not going to give them those type minutes where they're going to come back because of him. But he'll hold the fort pretty good.
Well, I hope they'll be able to keep Paul Pierce's minutes down a little bit.
Well, you got Green playing behind him, so that's good.
Right. Well, a different kind of player, though. He's
Yeah.
more of a 4 than, I mean,
Well, he's got the shot.
swing.
He plays good D. He can, as well as you can, cover LeBron James.
Right.
You know.
In the off season, you're going to come up with crazy stories like Deontay Christmas and Chris Joseph. These guys are, you know, fringe players at best. If they make, assuming they make the team, they're not going to be big contributors.
No, I like to see Christmas make it. I mean, he looked great in Las Vegas and in Orlando. He looked real good. But, you know, I'm hoping he makes the team anyway because team in Europe was offering him a lot more money than the Celtics. Celtics gave him a partial guarantee. He didn't come close to making the money he would have made in Europe, but he really wants to play in the NBA. And Ainge was real happy with that decision because he really likes him. He's a real hustler. He can shoot, good defensive player. They get injuries, they have him to come in. You know, he's not going to play that much with the team they have now. But I'll tell you, Ron, you look at this team. If they come together, I mean, they're going to give Miami fits. They gave Miami fits this year. You know, and with the players they have now coming off the bench, it's almost like reminds me of San Antonio, where everybody can play on the team.
Right. And, you know, obviously, Oklahoma City is still a young team that's maturing, and a lot of their guys really couldn't step up against Miami.
No, that's why I liked when people said I was crazy when I said I like Miami over Oklahoma City, and I wanted Miami to win, because there's something about younger players you'd have to go through, you know, a couple of years where they're battling like Oklahoma City, just like remember the old Detroit Pistons before they beat the Celtics in Chicago. You know, they had they lost in the finals a couple of times.
Well, maybe now that LeBron James has won his championship ring, that the NBA won't feel obligated to give him a call every single time he touches the ball, too. You know, the officiating in the NBA is such that home court advantage is the biggest advantage of any sport in professional sports. And it's not just because the fans cheer loud.
But don't you think Ainge did a great job this summer? Though?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at the team. 2 years ago, what did we expect? We said they're going to have to rebuild. You know, when Garnett and Allen and Pierce.
Right. Well, you know, the big loss is Allen. But, you know, what have they got back? They got Green back, who couldn't play. They have Lee back. They have Sullinger.
Terry.
So
Wilcox.
So they have a lot of pieces added.
And Lee. Did you say Lee?
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Wilcox did a good job while he was in there.
He loved playing with Rondo.
Right. And where they hurt was they were not a good rebounding team. And Sullinger and Wilcox will both add to that. You know, and we understand Melo's a project. He's probably not going to be too productive this year.
But you look at it and you say, wow, the bench could play better than the starters. What other team do you know that has a bench that could outplay the starters at times?
Well, it should be fun. Now, the Olympics are going to be having opening ceremonies tomorrow, and, you know, always ready to create controversy. The sports writers have deemed it important that Michael Phelps is not going to march in the opening ceremonies because he has to swim early the next day. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, who cares who matches in it? But I'm literally looking forward. I love the Olympics. The Summer Olympics, I mean, I like that even better than watching professional sports. Even watching I love watching the Patriots play. You know, you get a little excitement there, especially in a big game. But there's nothing like the Summer Olympics.
Well, I don't like sports that are judged. I don't like synchronized swimming. I don't dislike gymnastics. I'm always worried about, you know, the Bolivian judge has cooked up a deal with the French judge.
Well, the American team, the women's team is they're picked to win the gold medal.
Right.
I mean, they have that girl from Needham. She's I saw that special on CSN. I mean, boy, that was something when she has gone.
I just like, if you do the pole vault, you get over the highest mark, you won. If you have a
relay
race,
races are fun.
oh yeah, if the U.S. can pass the baton, that's been a struggle for the team over the years. Those transition zones are so important. Well, the Red Sox. Do we have to talk about the Red Sox? I had a member of the clubhouse in the other day, not a player, who said he's just never seen anything like it as far as the dysfunction, the bad attitude, and he felt the two rotten apples in the barrel, not surprisingly, were Beckett and Lackey. He said they're brothers, and you know, Lester's still got ties there. They said Buchholz is completely split off, so maybe that's why his head's back on straight. Well, it's because he's not with the boys anymore.
But Ron, we said this last year. I said it towards the end of the year. I'm saying I said it that Lester's hanging around Beckett too much. He's starting to make the same faces Beckett makes. You know, every time there's a pitch that's close, he doesn't get the call. He whines. He was never like that. But Lackey, I hear that Lackey's a good teammate. Is that wrong? I mean, this guy told you that he's a problem?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I heard that his teammates like him because he's good in the clubhouse. But I know you see him on the mound, you know, you look at his face.
Yeah.
You know, he gets everybody else down.
Well, he talked about some people who are really good people. Particularly, he said Cody Ross, great guy. He said Middlebrooks is a great guy. He said Siriaco's a great guy. So
he's good, isn't he, Siriaco?
Yeah. So
they're DHing him now with Ortiz out. What do you say about Pedroia?
he didn't say. I didn't ask him about Pedroia.
You know, I think Valentine's biggest mistake is when Pedroia came out and says we don't do things that way. Valentine should have replied and said, yes, now we do things that way.
Well, he did say that the players took. They felt that Valentine's emphasis on fundamentals, the things that they learned in baseball playing Little League, that wasn't really appropriate for them. They're professionals. They know how to do their job. Well,
they know how to do their job.
Based on what?
Last September, they really knew how to do their job. When they couldn't get a big hit, errors, the pitches were terrible. I mean, they really cared then. When Beckett gives up because he knew he wasn't going to win the Cy Young Award, you know, he let down at the end of the season. I mean, that's great for the teammates to hear. I mean, where's the edge? He's supposed to be one of the leaders. You know how important a leader is. You know, in our basketball team, you know, we have more than one leader, but, you know, it's different than the pros. You know, they should watch our team practice and play. They should have the Red Sox just watch them. Well, when you talk about giving an effort.
Well, if you have any kind of pride when you're playing sports, you're going to play hard, whether it's practice or the 7th game of the World Series. And you don't always get the idea that guys are playing hard.
You know what's a problem, though, in sports and in baseball, too? Now, out of all the sports in baseball, you know, the fathers and mothers bring their kids to watch. You know, and they're playing Little League ball or Babe Ruth, and they're watching these idiots half the time, not hustling down to first because, oh, I hit a ground ball to second, you know, so they come out of the batter's box half speed. Guy bobbles the ball, now they might try to run. I mean, if he feels it right, they trot down, you know. Pedroia runs hard every time. Jeter runs hard every time. But Ortiz, the guy that's supposed to be the great, you know, the great teammate, he hardly ever runs hard down the first baseline. Well, the only time he runs hard is if he hits a ground ball that goes into the outfield and the second baseman's playing out there.
Right.
He may try to beat that out because he thinks he has a pretty good chance up his batting average. But, you know, kids see that. But another thing that I always used to hate is when these players put their hats on backwards. When I coached, Ron, you weren't allowed to come down the field with your hat on backwards. You went home. Or your shirt unbuttoned. It was tucked in. I mean, baseball's always been that type of game. Now they get carefree. You know, you see it in Babe Ruth. I was watching a Babe Ruth game the other day. You know, and I don't even want to say the team I was watching. I couldn't believe it. I was taking my granddaughter for a walk, and we're watching a Babe. It was unbelievably bad. Kids had their shirts out. One kid went into the outfield without a hat on. The coach never said anything. He was out there in right field without a hat on. You know, and they don't even know how to throw to the cutoff man, what a cutoff man is. And, you know, and I always had that problem when I coached because you want to do things the right way, and some players don't want to do things the right way. You get on them, then their parents are complaining. I mean, it's really the philosophy in sports right now for the youth, in some sports, it's really bad. And, you know, when it comes down from the commissioner down to the coaches.
Well, I think that as coaches, we emphasize to the players, you live your life the way you play on the field or on the court. If you come in disheveled, unprepared, not knowing what to do, not caring what to do, then that's probably how you're approaching going to English class, doing your homework, everything else.
Right, I got off track there a little when you started talking about, the pro players and how they don't, give 100%, like the Red Sox. Who's the leader? I mean, it's like they don't care. And then the young kids go watch them, and it's the same thing. But when I coached one time, the one thing that's bothered me in coaching, and all the years I've coached all sports, one year I was coaching Babe Ruth. I had this kid who was a poor outfielder. We practiced a lot, my teams. Every practice, I must have hit him 50 fly balls. Played just about every inning of every game. Really became a good outfielder. I pushed for him to make the All-Star team. One game he drilled me with a line drive. I didn't get out of the way in the kidney. I ended out, in the hospital for 2 days. And parents never knew. But I pushed for him to make the All-Star team. He hurts his arm, so he's not starting. He's getting in 1 or 2 innings a game. We're in the semifinals of the regions, right? We win the semifinal game. Now we're going into the finals. The parents come up to me. The same kid I coached all year, that played all year, upset at me because he wasn't playing more, wasn't starting. I told him we had 3 better outfielders who were starting. He had hurt his arm. This is the kid I coached. They take him off the team.
Well,
they take him off the team. We have 1 more game to go.
There's a popular book called The Heart and the Fist, and it's about a Navy SEAL and how he moved from becoming a philanthropist, a humanitarian relief worker, into the Navy SEALs. And he talks about his experience at Duke as a student, and he got into boxing. And he talks about his boxing coach, and the coach said, he says, I want you to take care of your equipment. And he talks about, warming up properly and doing all the tough physical exercises, the running and the jumping rope and so forth. And he made the point that the coach taught him about the role of discipline in your life, and that everything that you did, the smallest thing about taking care of the laces in your gloves, reflected not only on who you were, but also how you respected your coach.
Right, and how you respect the game of baseball. To me, baseball is one sport. You respect the game of baseball. You play it the right way. I mean, you go down there and you talk about discipline.
Well, look at Padilla. He beans Beltre. Padilla's kind of a knucklehead, so I don't know if it was accidental or not.
It was on purpose.
Well, anyway.
You know why? Because he's on third base with 1 out. He's not going to pitch to him.
Well, and the next day, yesterday, Gonzalez gets hit in the backside, and he just, drops his, protective padding and walks down to first. No gripe.
Yeah, but look where they hit him.
Yeah, I know. He didn't get hurt.
Padilla's an idiot. Padilla's crazy. Texas didn't want him on the team. They got rid of him.
Well, he's got bad feelings with Texas.
Teixeira and Young. Hey, can't stand him.
Right.
Teixeira and Young both went up to him and said, listen, every time you hit somebody and throw at someone, we're the 2 guys that are getting hit the next day or that game. Stop throwing at people. And he's throwing at them. They didn't hit anybody in his team. His thinking is Padilla. He's crazy. Why should I throw 4 pitches to walk the guy? I'll just bean him one time. Next time he comes up, he'll be bailing out. The next 2 players will be bailing out. That's his thinking.
Well, let me
drill him in the head.
That was the Don Drysdale
He's crazy.
approach.
The Red Sox have him. He's another player on the team, another guy that adds to that team.
Well, as the trading deadline arrives within the next week, it'll be interesting to see what the Red Sox do. I would lobby hard for them to be sellers, not buyers, because I think they have a snowball's chance in hell of being successful down the way and getting better players for what they have. You're not going to get much for a guy like Shopik. I mean, if you could get a lot for a Cody Ross, probably. I mean, I'm not saying that Ross deserves to be traded. I'm just saying you should get as much as you can, because the Sox do not look like they can compete seriously this year.
It's a shame with that team, though, Ron. As a Yankee fan, to me, they have the most talent out of these teams. You look at the talent. I mean, they've had injuries. The last 2 years with Euclid.
Well, the Yankees have had serious injuries, too.
But they're the one team, if they could ever put it together, but they don't have the mentality. Even Pedroia's complaining now. Pedroia yesterday goes, when he hit that line drive to left field with 2 men on base in the 7th or 8th inning, he goes, everything we're hitting is right at people. Everything they're hitting, is just dropping in. Well, what happened the night before? What happened when the night before and they blew the single over the shortstop's head? He forgets about that. They're all whining. I can't believe it. With that talent, they're all whiners.
Well, winning breeds happiness and contentment, and losing just makes people unruly and frustrated, which is not surprising. But I feel bad for Valentine because I don't think it's his fault. You know, is it his fault that Lester can't get anyone out, or Beckett's really struggled all year? If your star players don't do it, who's supposed to do it?
Yeah, what are they? I don't know what they're doing with some of these players too. Crawford, the way he's batting second, then he's batting seventh. Let him bat second, so he has 1 or 2 bad games. Look at Hamilton. You're talking about a guy who's totally lost. He went from 318 to 283. This time of year, going down 35 points.
I know. I thought he was going to be a Triple Crown candidate
You see what he's
this year.
swinging at? You remember we talked about sacks in Knobloch last week, last show? He's like them at bat. He has no idea. He's swinging at pitches up near his head. He's swinging.
Well, I hope he's not back in the problem with alcohol or drugs.
I think there's a problem there, Ron. You just look at his face.
Because he's obviously a great talent. He is in his contract year. Now we'll see.
Something's going to come out.
The big deal of the week, which we want to say something about, is Ichiro going to the Yankees. That's a good move for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Good defensive player.
Yeah, they gave up 2 pitches, not 2 of their top pitches. They're renting him because he's all done after this year. He'll be a free agent. They won't sign him because Gardner's coming back next year. Gardner right now is way better than him. So they'll have him next year. They still have Swisher and Granderson. So, you know, they're not going to sign him. It's just hopefully, you know, he can help them, you know, win the World Series, which you know how I feel about the Yankees. I just don't think they have enough hitting. You know, A-Rod gone now, injured. It's not a big loss with A-Rod gone.
Well, even Liverpool couldn't win at Fenway, so I guess none of the Boston
Wouldn't
teams
the Italian
can win.
team played them?
Yeah, Roma. So, well, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.